Can you tell me what Operation Nightingale is and who does it help?
So Operation Nightingale is a programme of recovery for service personnel from the British Armed Forces and overseas now as well, using archaeology and heritage as ways of the mechanism for improving their condition and basically giving them a good time.
Tell me how you achieve that.
How we achieve the improvement in their condition is by finding various projects that they can work in the open air and have fun with their mates and camaraderie, and basically get that whole banter experience, the things that they're perhaps missing from a military environment in their civilian world, and making sure they're able to use their mind and their bodies, physical skills, bringing their skill sets that sometimes they don't maybe even realise that they still have into a project environment and working as a team together. When we do archaeology with them, the crucial thing from my perspective is that they have to find stuff, because there's nothing worse than doing a dig where you find nothing at all.
And what is it about archaeology that makes it so therapeutic?
Well, the great thing about archaeology is that there is a job for everybody. So you can be in the open air, you can do some digging, or if you don't feel like digging, you can work on the finds, or you can do some photography. As many of the individuals on the project aren't particularly used to that sort of environment, they concentrate really, really hard because they don't want to screw up, especially in front of their mates. So they're thinking really, really hard about making sure that what they're doing is a good piece of work. And I think of a case in point when I was speaking to one of the soldiers who was working on this job. He was working on an Anglo-Saxon burial. And I said to him after a couple of days, "Are you not bored of doing this work?" And he said, no, I'm loving it because I'm not thinking about Iraq. And that must be great, that they're actually able to block this thing out and think about something completely different. And it gives them a bit of respite. And I've had numerous guys saying they've had some of the best sleeps that they've ever had on these projects. Not just because I've been talking to them. It's, it's being out in the open air, and they're physically tired at the end. It can be quite a hard piece of work doing this. So I think it's a mixture of being able to be in an environment with friends, doing new jobs that are interesting, and also connecting with their own heritage. One of the things we do is working on a lot of military projects, and they bring in the skill sets of knowledge of these military environments and elements of the excavation artefacts we're finding that I don't have as a skill set. So it's giving something to a project as a whole.
That's great. So how did you come up with the idea for all of this?
The project came in 2011, so it's been running for a while now, and in fact it was a phone call I received from the medical sergeant in Beachley Barracks over in Chepstow, who was attached to 1st Battalion of the Rifles. That's the biggest of the infantry regiments, and he suggested that he's got one of his lads who was going to commit suicide unless he was able to do some archaeology. It's not the normal reaction you get. Normally it drives you to it, but no, he wanted to do some archaeology, and whether, as I work for the MOD as an archaeologist, whether we could set up a project for him. And that's not breaking any confidence, it's the guy's been on television to say this. And so the phone call went in 2011, and it's gone up to today of going from one small unit in the army right through to all the branches of the armed forces. And we put well over 100 people through this programme, and some of them have done degrees, some of them have now worked for archaeological professional companies, and others have just got a nice group on Facebook that they'll have a laugh with. And if that's something that makes them feel better, then fantastic, job done.
Okay, and who is it that you're targeting to get involved with the project?
There's always a way in, and it's just knowing the right people at the right time, really, in many ways. So if there's any veteran that fancies having a go at something to do with heritage, or they've got a particular question about heritage they want to get involved in, then I'm keen to hear from them and see if we can make that sort of thing happen. There's always a job, as I said, for everybody within archaeology, and a lot of people get the bug. We've had people on the programme that just did it to shut the mate up, who've been rattling on about archaeology, but they keep coming back. And I think it's a bit of a bug, really. I've been doing it for years, and it's nice to see other people from a military environment having that sort of excitement and passion that I've got. It's that discovery moment. It's finding something connecting directly to history through an object. You can find an object that was fired, let's say, in the First World War, and you read about the First World War, and that's great. But to see something that was actually there in the First World War, then that's amazing.
Firstly, what brought you to this project?
It's the history of it, basically. Having served in the Royal Tank Regiment, being part of the history of it, also having family who actually served in the First World War on tanks. That's what it brought me this. It was another way of being part of it and finding what they went through. I've always been interested in history as itself, as you see. As a living historian as well as a hobby, I just wanted to get more immersed. Got me more immersed into it.
And is it just the First World War that you're interested in?
No, any military history really. I grew up on a real diet of war films being taken to museums by my pet family.
Okay, so what is it about this project that you find so beneficial?
It's helped me in my actual physical recovery and mentally recovery from being injured in Afghanistan in 2009. I needed to find a way of overcoming the barriers of my physical, but also post-traumatic stress disorder, which I was diagnosed with before leaving the forces. And it's a way of actually overcoming that barrier and also taking my mind off it as well. And so while I was on the dig, I wasn't thinking of my time out there. I was thinking, this is something that's keeping my mind off it, and also thinking of the history and the background of it and what was, what happened 100 years ago, rather than my actual service.
And what message would you have to any former servicemen that might be dismissive of this project?
I highly recommend it. It's a way of overcoming. They probably see it on TV as a bunch of tweed, chino wearing archaeologists basically digging a hole really on, like I say, time zone. They think, but when you're actually doing it, it's something, you're gaining something out of it, and you feel, it's a sense of pride at the end as well. You found an object, and then you can think, yeah, I'm actually holding history. This is how we've all developed. So human race should never forget about history. They should always keep it in their memory. And this is like an event like this is actually doing it.